Welcome to the Rams-Texans preseason preview. I'm Gilbert Manzano, Rams beat reporter for the OC Register LA Daily News. I know usually you expect Fernando Ramirez to be the host, but I'm taking care of it today. And joining me is Victor Corona, also known as Vic the Producer. Vic, thank you for joining me again. I know it's preseason football, but I think we liked this so much last week, talking about Chargers, Rams. We broke up into teams between the Ramirez brothers and us being the first team unit and them being the backup. And we like what we're doing here, Vic. So, yes, we're doing another preview for the preseason, Texans and the Rams. But, Victor, thank you for joining me. And are you okay with talking some more ugly preseason football?
Of course, this is the best time of the year. Well, not the best time of the year. Like once we get into the season, that'll be the best time of the year. But we're gonna have to. We're grinding through this right now. But wait. Before we get started and before we go on, we gotta let the Rams fans know what they missed in case they missed out on Una Mas on the Compas main show. We gotta this interaction between you and Coach McVay. I thought it was really awesome, and they should kind of hear it. So let's play it for them.
Let's do it
I have
again. All
two
right.
questions, but I'll start with Cameron Dicker. He did a little bit of everything yesterday. What did you see from Cameron?
He did awesome. So here's my first question for you. Do you want to be called Gilbert or Gilberto? Because I know I've seen people call you that before, but what do you prefer?
Well, my full name is Gilberto. You pronounce it well. Just roll your R, and we're cool with Gilberto.
Gilberto. Okay, I like it. G it is. All right.
I like it.
So there it is. Can you give us how did that go for you?
The best part, Victor, is when he tries to pronounce Gilberto, Sean McVay, and then he just goes, G it is. We're going with G. So that cracks me up every single time. And look at you, Victor. You're the producer, but you're like Fernando now. Gave me surprises with the videos and the audio. But I'm glad we're doing it again, Victor, on playing this audio because we did it for Uno Mas. And by the way, check out Compas on the Beat this week. We have the AFC West, NFC West previews for that episode on Compas on the Beat on YouTube, Spotify. Subscribe, do all that stuff. But I have an update, Victor.
Look at you plugging. I don't even have to bring it up, and you're over here just plugging away.
Who needs Fernando Ramirez to be hosting here? You know, we got this. I can't wait till he watches this and figures out that I've taken 3 shots at him in the first 3 minutes of the show. But the update, Victor, of that audio with Sean McVay. Hopefully I'm not putting my boy Artist. He's the PR guy with the Rams on the spot. But Artist was telling Sean McVay that it's Gilbert, and Sean McVay kept saying, "No, I'm pretty sure it's Gilberto. That's his full name, Gilberto." So they were kind of debating, is what I heard. So Sean McVay made sure to ask me on the Zoom call, "What is it, Gilbert or Gilberto?" And then as soon as I said my full name is Gilberto, Sean McVay called Artist, the PR guy for the Rams. He does a great job, and said, "I told you so." So Sean McVay has been wanting to know what's going on with the mystery of Gilbert Gilberto. And I'll just say this, Victor. That was pretty cool that he's very interested and invested in the name. But I just hate coming off as picky. But I appreciate Sean McVay for getting it right. He got it right. And he wants to call me G, Gilbert, Gilberto. Victor, you kind of play around with it too. You have a rotation of names, so it's fine. But I thought that was a funny story, and that is an update version for you.
No, you got to keep it fresh. I mean, I try to mix it around. I'll call you Gil. I'll call you Gilbert and Gilberto. Still haven't gotten to that point where I can call you Gilberto like Dan and Dago, but it's growing on me. I won't lie. But let's get to what we're here for. Let's start with what happened last week between the Rams and the Chargers, and we'll start with the star of the game, which was wide receiver Lance McCutcheon. Give us your assessment, and do you see what can he build off of from this, and how big of a challenge does he have trying to make this team?
Yeah, no, I'm glad we started off with Lance McCutcheon because McCutcheon was clutch in that performance in that preseason opener. I know it was preseason, but it was very impressive. Like, the Rams are pretty loaded at wide receiver when they're healthy. I'm going to emphasize when they're healthy and they're ready to go. It's hard to make the roster, but he was so impressive, Lance McCutcheon was, that now you're talking about him pushing somebody out for a roster spot. So we'll get into it real quick, but or I guess I will and then you will, Victor. But let me just break down what he did in the preseason game against the Chargers. 2 touchdowns, I want to say 5 receptions for 87 yards, and a 2-point conversion to add to that. And the first touchdown was a 60-yard bomb from Bryce Perkins, who was a pretty ball. And I was just amazed how he kind of tracked the ball. It was like on the defender's rib cage, and he had like a tight window, and he still found it and got it and broke 2 tackles. I know the Chargers had bad tackling that game, so it helped out. But to do all that, track the ball in tight space, corral it, break tackles, take it to the end zone was impressive. And then I think he's 6'3", and then the second touchdown was 11-yard touchdown, a jump ball. So he showed the size, the great hands, and just getting open. And to be that big and to be that athletic was really impressive with Lance McCutcheon. And now the second part, Victor, is can he make the roster? And I'm gonna admit some error here because I am still a rookie on the Rams beat, and I didn't have McCutchen on my radar at all until that preseason game. Because I started thinking like Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek, Brandon Powell. I just named 6 wide receivers. And then, they really like this guy, Jacob Harris, who is going from tight end to wide receiver. That's 7 wide receivers. So I didn't really pay attention too much to Lance McCutcheon. That is my bad. And Bryce Perkins tried to warn me last week. He said, this guy is making plays. And I'm like, yeah, he's on the second team, third team. I'm not going to fall for it. And sure enough, he broke out. But Victor, to kind of summarize before I give you your 2 cents here, it's going to be very tough. And for me, I had to pencil him in, but then you have to figure out, don't be a prisoner of the moment. Okay, it was just one game, and it is just a preseason. And Sean McVay really hyped him up. But then the following couple of days, he was like, tone it down. He still has to earn it on special teams. Like, you can't just have 8 wide receivers if you're not doing anything on special teams. So when I'm looking at special teams now, I'm keeping an eye out on special teams because that time of year, he's not really doing what Jacob Harris does, and that's already 7 wide receivers. So it's tough, but if he does it again against the Texans Friday night at SoFi Stadium, now we're really talking.
Yeah, like one of the things I was going to talk about, or I was going to ask you, is does he play special teams? Because one of the things I've learned, having followed the NFL for a long time, is if you're a rookie, an undrafted rookie, you're going to have to make a team via special teams. If you're a special teams ace, in some way you're going to have to get on the field. That's the only way you can. That's one of the ways you can get in. Like we've seen players like Victor Cruz come out of nowhere and make a team. He's on a rookie contract, so it wouldn't cost them. They need contracts like that to make on a 50-man roster. So that's the other thing that's gonna help him. But like you said, does he make a practice squad? He's got a lot of guys in front of him, so we'll see what happens. But I'm sure a lot of Rams fans are now like looking at him, and he's one of the guys they're going to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I know we got to move on in a bit to the next topic, but he is definitely already a fan favorite for the Rams because Rams fans, they had a scrimmage on Tuesday, and Cooper Kupp got a veteran day off. There's no Van Jefferson because of injury. So you would think, okay, now there's some opportunities here to be with the first team unit during a scrimmage with Matthew Stafford. That's a big opportunity. So obviously Allen Robinson was out there, but then the 2 was Ben Skoranek and Tutu Atwell, and I tweeted that out, and people were like, "What about McCutchen? Where's he at?" So he's still on the second team. He still has to work his way up, but it's hard to beat Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek, Jacob Harris. Brandon Powell is such a great player on special teams. So Vic, it's going to be tough. But hey, they got 3 preseason games, 2 more to go. That's why they have 3 for a reason, to make your case and make it stronger. And to answer your question about, if he does get let go, I think somebody might pick him up on waivers, and that might be the end of his Rams tenure. So it's going to be very tough because if you're betting on the upside, but he's not ready to contribute on special teams, it's going to be very tough to keep him.
Well, talking about that, let's get into the running backs. I mean, the running backs room has been getting hit with injuries. It's with Cam Akers and Henderson. Should fans Ram fans be worried now, or what's going on?
Yeah, this is very interesting for the Rams, and I think that it's a little bit worrisome that Kyron Williams, the rookie running back out of Notre Dame, a fifth round pick, who he came off an injury. Just keep that in mind. He came off a foot injury, but he's ready to go. He's been in the team drills. He's been the number one back with Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson out, but he won't play on Friday night against the Texans because one, yes, he just came off the foot injury. You don't want to rush him, but also it's kind of insurance. Like, what if Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson are not ready for the season opener? That's your lead back. You want to put them in harm's way, but also you think a rookie needs to get some kind of reps out there. Like he can't just go into week one of the biggest, one of the biggest games of the year, the ring ceremony against the Buffalo Bills, and you're the rookie, you're the starter. I guess we've seen it before, Victor, but
Yeah,
that
we
that
have.
that kind of tells you though that they're playing it so safe with Kyron Williams as insurance that they don't know what's going to happen with Cam Akers, with Darrell Henderson. That's a red flag to me. Or they're just being very, very cautious. Again, I'm new to this team. I don't know how they operate just yet. But it's a little concerning that they won't even play the rookie running back because they're concerned about being thin at running back. So in terms of preseason, it's kind of a letdown that you won't get to see Kyron Williams out there for a debut and see what he has. And because he did well at Notre Dame, you want to see what he does. So he won't be out there. But it is kind of intriguing, what happens with Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. But real quick before I forget, Jake Funk, the second-year running back, I like saying the name Jake Funk.
Yeah, I
He
know.
will
That's it.
he will be the starter against the Texans, and AJ Rose. Go
I
ahead.
just want to say, here comes the funk.
If he's making like some kind of walk-up song or whatever intro, that's the song right there, Victor.
Right.
So Jake Funk, you can't call the guy Jake, you just call him Funk. But he will be the lead back. AJ Rose and Raymond Calais. Hopefully, I'm not butchering his last name. Calais, I think it is. Those three running backs put in the work last week and did okay. I know Bryce Perkins helped out a lot because he's a mobile quarterback, but get used to those three names: Jake Funk, AJ Rose, and Raymond Calais without Kyron Williams in there.
Yeah, I think the Ram fans are used to this with Sean McVay. I mean, he usually ends up like not playing any of their guys during preseason, which frustrates a lot of their fans because they want to see. And by now, I mean, I think everybody's used to it. I think most of the league has kind of gone by, but they've used some of his stuff because they're like, well, why should we use our starters too? Because hey, look, the Rams have been successful with this, so we might as well start doing it ourselves. But I mean, there's also the thing where you have fans who want to see these players, and then you like Lance McCutcheon, like we were just talking about, then you're gonna end up cutting them. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens with that. But talking about that, who have some of the rookies that have impressed for you?
Yeah, last week against the Chargers was a lot of debuts. That's kind of the exciting part of a preseason opener. I know it's preseason, you don't really care, but the exciting part is rookie debuts. And for me, I was keeping an eye on the right guard, Logan Bruss. He was a third-round pick for the Rams, and technically he's the first pick for them of that draft. Third-round pick is pretty late, as we know the Rams don't really draft in the first or second round. But I thought Logan Bruss did okay. He, not to downplay it, but I'll start with this with Logan Bruss. He got beat pretty bad on the first drive, and it was like a 3rd and 7, and Morgan Fox, who has plenty of experience in the NFL, just bull rushed him, dropped him to the ground, and it was kind of a welcome to the NFL moment for Logan Bruss. But after that, he got settled in, and I really like the way he was as a run blocker. He probably needs a little more work on with the pass rushers on third downs, especially, but as a run blocker, he was making it work for Jake Funk. There he goes again, Jake Funk,
Yeah.
AJ Rose, and Raymond Calais. Hopefully, I'm not butchering his name, Victor. We'll figure that out. But he was run blocking, and he stood out to me. And then I wanted to look at the cornerbacks, the rookie cornerbacks. These guys have been feisty, competitive in training camp. Darion Kendrick from Georgia. He was a 6th-round pick. He's been battling with Allen Robinson. He's been a pretty productive outside cornerback. And then the other one, his name is like, kind of like me. His full name is Jacoby, but he told me today, actually, after practice, he prefers Kobe. So get rid of the D and the E and keep it short. Kobe Duran. out of South Carolina State, 4th-round pick. Those two guys were pretty impressive, and I think Sean McVay has seen enough from them. Like, these guys have been good. He pulled them out early. Like, Logan Bruss was there until the second half. These guys were out pretty quick. So those three trios of rookies really impressed me, and we'll see how they do come Friday night against Houston.
No, that should be pretty easy to remember when you combine two NBA players, Kobe Durant.
Yeah,
It's pretty easy. So that shouldn't be hard. But I mean, and it's good. Like, it's good to see these guys battling out there and proving, like, this is where I know, like, preseason games, it's hard to gauge where they're at, because mostly you wanna see it in, they get the most out of them in the scrimmage that they have against other teams. And so this is where you put tape out there in case you don't make it on this team. But like, they're going to, because they need, like, especially like when you say, like, they spend a 3rd-round pick, like, for them that's their 1st-round pick, essentially, for the Rams. So it's huge. These players have to pay dividends for them, because they're going to use them, especially if there's injuries, and there's always injuries, like late in the season. But we're gonna move on now to I wanted to ask you about Perkins. He's been doing really well so far, and he's impressed. And I've read and I've listened to people, and they keep bringing up his name as someone who might actually stick around with the Rams, because with Stafford's elbow injury, we don't know what could happen. So do you think they might keep 3 quarterbacks on the team?
I think so. This is what happened last summer, Victor, with Bryce Perkins. Like, it's tough to keep 3 quarterbacks, because that means there's less roster spots for your other positions. Like, you want to have enough guys in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. Wide receivers is always kind of like a surplus. But Bryce Perkins played so well. Like, okay, fine. John Wolford, Stafford, Perkins. They were so concerned that he won't make it through waivers, so they kept 3. And he's doing it again, and he's doing it better now. Like, last year, he was just a very athletic quarterback who could, extend plays and kind of be creative and make it work. Now he's I wouldn't say polished, but he's a much improved pocket passer. He's staying in the pocket a little longer. We saw those throws to McCutcheon. He's taking a couple hits in there, and then he picks the time when to run. He's shaking people. He's hurting over people. So to combine the athleticism with the arm and the improvements as a pocket passer, and this guy's going and practice every single day against Aaron Donald and Bobby Wagner and Jalen Ramsey. So it's paying off. So to answer your question, Victor, I think he's going to do it again. They're going to keep 3 quarterbacks. And I know the whole factor of Matthew Stafford and dealing with the elbow pain, I think that's kind of maybe becoming a non-story now, because one thing that was big for me is that they're actually going to start John Wolford this week. Last week, it was Bryce Perkins who played the entire game. He had no help. He was the starting quarterback for the whole game. And I think that was because they wanted to have their insurance. And John Wolford, like, what if something's wrong with Stafford? You don't want to put your backup in harm's way. Now they feel so confident with Stafford's arm, because he just had a scrimmage and threw 75 passes, and he looked great. He didn't feel soreness the next day. So now it's, okay, John Wolford, time to get some reps in and help out Bryce Perkins. And they cut our boy, Luis Perez, the Mexican quarterback. He's gone. So they're short-handed right now. So John Wolford takes the first half. Bryce Perkins takes the second. And honestly, Victor, it doesn't really matter what Bryce Perkins does, I feel like, in the next 2 games. I think his job is safe and secure, and that's going to make it interesting for the other positions on the roster.
Yeah, like, he's been outstanding in camp. Like, we talked about it last week about that throw that he had in camp for Tutu Atwell. Like, you said that you were just impressed. I think he's making those throws, so it's not like he's having trouble with, like, he's just a mobile quarterback. He's actually throwing the ball down the field and making incredible throws. So I mean, he's someone that should make the team, and so for me, that's huge. It'll be something to keep an eye on. But like, and then Wolford, I like, it'll be good to see him, get some action. You want to get, especially now that it's the second game. The third game, we probably don't see him again. I think it'll be Perkins probably the whole game. And then with Stafford, he's got a baseball injury, and just like with any starter or reliever, it's how you feel. It's not when you throw the 75 throws, it's like the days after. So he'll be fine. They'll the good thing is games are a week away. He plays every week, I should say, so every 7 days or 6 days, whatever it is. So he'll be fine. Like, it just seems like that's what it is. And they can always talk to their neighbors there, the Dodgers, and that Dr. Elatroch, and I'm sure they've taken care of everything for him. But lastly, let's get to who are we gonna be watching, the players to watch for the Rams and Texans game?
Yeah, I already touched on the other three rookies, Logan Bruss, Kobe Durant, and Darion Kendrick. So I'm gonna go with another rookie and a third-year player. The rookie is Daniel Hardy, outside linebacker, and I actually just spoke. I should promote my stories, by the way.
Yes.
If it's Thursday, if you're watching this on a Thursday and it's a little late in the afternoon, I'm doing a story on bubble players, like guys who are fighting for roster spots. Like I spoke to Jake Funk, I spoke to Daniel Hardy, and what else do I have? Oh, just check out my stories for Friday. I have another preview on Kobe Durant and Darren Kendrick. I'm talking to all the rookies and all the
Where
unproven
can they
players.
find your work, Gil?
Orange County Register, LA Daily News, Southern California News Group, or follow me on Twitter at gmontana24, or actually do both, and follow Compas on the Beat, because Victor does a good job of retweeting my stories. So at Compas OTB, Twitter, all that. And before I get sidetracked, Victor, yes, I spoke to Daniel Hardy. I am not concerned about him making the roster. I know he's a 7th-round pick, and when you have a lot of competition, sometimes a 7th-round pick doesn't make it the first year, but he is fine. I think so. I mainly wanted to talk to him. I shouldn't say that, but a big part I wanted to talk to Daniel Hardy was he went to Montana State with Lance McCutcheon. They have 2 guys from Montana State on the roster, no guys from USC or UCLA. That is kind of a funny thing on the roster. And he pretty much said everybody in Montana knew about Lance McCutcheon. The world found out about him on Saturday night, so he already knew what the Rams had. But the thing I wanted to talk to Daniel Hardy was that he's kind of like Lance, but as an outside linebacker, very athletic, big body guy, and as a 7th-round pick, and one of these like deep 7th-round pick. You know how long that round is in the draft, Victor.
Yeah.
He's making some noise. It's gonna be hard for him to kind of crack a rotation, but again, he's trying to do it on special teams. So I caught up with Daniel Hardy, and I want to see now what he does on special teams and as an outside linebacker. And the other one is Michael Hoyt, because if you take 7 or 8 wide receivers, what are you taking away from? And I'm thinking it might be defensive line, because you have Aaron Donald, Greg Gaines, and Ashawn Robinson. Maybe you could afford with 2 more, but it's kind of tricky to take away from the trenches right there, Victor. You know how important it is for the big guys. Yeah. But he could be somebody that needs to earn it, because you can't have 5 or 6 guys now, because maybe wide receiver is too loaded. So Michael Hoyt, Daniel Hardy, long-winded, are 2 guys that I want to see Friday night against the Texans.
Yeah, and talking about, like, when you brought up the 2 Montana State guys, they found Cooper Kupp in a Division II, so like they hey, if it works, you go back. They must have a scout, who's they trust in that conference, because they keep drafting really well from that conference.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Victor, too, because maybe I should have done my research, but Cooper Kupp gave Lance McCutcheon a shout out like in April, and he said, "This guy from the Big Sky Conference, watch out for him." And sure enough, he was right about that performance, that would happen. So let's see if he can do it again.
Is there anything else that we should expect? Like, do you think anybody else is gonna play? Are we even expecting the main guys to get suited up at all during the preseason?
I don't think so, but you did set me up. We'll end with this one here, Victor.
Yep.
We kept talking about Tutu Atwell last week. Like, he's a guy who is kind of like a starter, or more like a rotational piece that will play a lot, who is one of the few people who has that role that was supposed to play in the preseason. He did not play at all. He was dressed. He had his helmet on. I had my binoculars out to see where's Tutu Atwell, and he just stood in the sideline. And Sean McVay said he's done enough in training camp it's okay. 2-2, you don't have to do anything. But also, too, kind of for insurance because Van Jefferson might not be ready. He does that a lot, the insurance thing. I've been figuring that out.
Yeah.
But that was kind of one of the surprises. No 2-2 Atwell. But other than that, I think should be the same guys as last week, Victor. Rookies, unproven players, guys fighting for the roster. You know how the Rams do it. They don't really, if you've already shown any kind of sign of being a good player, you don't have to play.
The way Sean McVay says insurance, you would think he's probably going to get a commercial from State Farm or something.
I'm surprised he hasn't had one yet, Victor.
Yeah.
Maybe he could do it in Spanish too and pronounce
Yeah.
Spanish names like my name, Gilberto.
I know he's got those Campbell soup commercials, so
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll see him in more things. But this was awesome. Is there anything else before we go? Anything you want to plug? Anything? I know we got Combat Compas, which
Yes.
should be releasing. What else? What else we got on the docket for people?
We have so much, and again, Victor, thank you for doing this because I got to talk Rams. I can't do it with Fernando. He's doing Chargers with his brother. So this is something. If you like this, let us know. We want to keep doing it. I'm enjoying it. By the way, hopefully you're signing up for week 3, the preseason, Victor. But also, if you want to know about the Chargers, if you're a person that cares about both teams, or more likely, you drafted some Rams players in fantasy football and some Charger players in fantasy football, check out Fernando Ramirez and his brother Dan and Dago and their preview. Chargers versus Cowboys. That's on Saturday. I think the preview should be up. But if you're watching this, that should be up too. Combat Compas, that was fun. We spoke to a lot of WWE superstars: Seth Rollins, Austin Theory. The list goes on. Check that out and subscribe. It's a new channel, Victor. We have 2 channels for Compas on the Beat YouTube, and then Combat Compas YouTube. Subscribe to those. Give a rating. Leave comments. Let us know you're out there.
5 stars.
5 stars, all that, and it will go a long way. But yeah, we're doing a lot here. We're making these previews. We're doing it all, Victor. We have interviews with big guests. But I'm excited for what we're doing. I'm glad that you joined us, and we're already seeing how much of a difference having 4 people on this network, which I love saying, by the way, Comas on the Beat Network. That's really paying off.
That brand is growing.
We're building a brand, and we're doing it by all the content we're releasing. So make sure to subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff. But Victor, I'll give you the floor real quick before I close this out. Anything you want to promote?
No, I mean, I want to go back to what you were saying. I mean, everything you said was right on it. Like, we got so much stuff coming out. I mean, if you guys keep up with our Twitter, our YouTube, everything will be there for you guys. If you have any questions, especially we're gonna bring back Ask the Compas. So if you use the hashtag Ask the Compas, we'll reply back to you guys, and that way the guys can answer your questions on our main show.
Sounds good. Thank you for plugging, Victor. Again, you agreed, right? Next week against the Bengals, Rams preseason finale.
I'm already signed up.
Okay, let's do it. This was fun. I know I said 20 minutes. It's 28 minutes. We went over. That's what happens sometimes. Don't tell Fernando that because I always give him slack for going over. So we're okay. We'll check out how long they went on their Chargers preview. But on that note, ya nos vamos. Pues, vámonos.